I thought the worst pain was waking up in a hospital bed, beaten and broken, but the real pain was learning who put me there. When I first opened my eyes, everything was pitch black. For a second I had no idea where I was. Where the heck am I? I muttered to myself, trying to push past the haze in my mind. I could hear the soft, rhythmic beeping of machines nearby. That's when I noticed the pressure on my head, and realized it was wrapped in bandages. The room around me was dark too. Maybe it was just nighttime, I thought. But even in the shadows, it was pretty clear I was in a hospital room. The sterile scent, the hum of electronics, the stiffness of the bed, I'd been here before, though I couldn't quite place why I was back now. As my eyes adjusted, I spotted two figures standing at the foot of the bed. They were just silhouettes at first. One tall and lanky with what looked like a beat-up cowboy hat, and the other smaller, likely a woman, delicate in frame. They were speaking in hushed tones, and I strained to make out their words, curiosity getting the better of me. "What do you think, Eli?" the woman asked softly. The man shifted his weight before replying. "Well, he seems to have the heart for it," he said. "But I gotta admit he's pretty rough around the edges. Doesn't exactly have the skill set we'd want." She nodded. "Yeah, I see that. But you can build up the body. Teach the skills." "Idaho?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "For starters," she said. "You already got clearance for this?" he asked her, skeptical. "I do," she replied. The big guy signed off, but with a few strings attached. "Let me guess," he said. "You want me to help you guide him through the first few jobs?" "Exactly. Will you help me?" The man looked over at me. His gaze met mine for a brief second. "Of course I will," he said. "You know I've always got your back." "I just needed to hear it," she said. He smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "Besides, I'd be totally lost without you." The memories started flooding in later, piecing themselves together in painful fragments. I had been assaulted, badly. It wasn't some random act of violence either. My wife, she was involved. She and some men had attacked me, demanded something, I still don't remember exactly what, and when I didn't comply they beat me until I blacked out. She didn't stop them. She joined in. When they were done they dumped me at the hospital, unconscious and broken. I was told I'd been in a medically induced coma for several days. They needed the swelling in my brain to go down, and they'd done some reconstructive surgery on my face. They tried to end me. I was barely alive when I arrived. "Has she come by at all?" the man Eli asked. "No," the woman answered quietly. "Not once. But the cops have been around a few times. They're investigating." A doctor entered the room not long after. He seemed kind, worn out but professional. "We had to do quite a bit of work on you," he said. "You were in rough shape. Your boss and some of your coworkers have been visiting almost every day. They've been pretty worried about you." "I don't remember any of that," I said, shaking my head slowly. "What about my wife?" I asked him. He paused. "I don't believe I've seen her here. Not once." There was a long silence before the doctor added, "We're probably ready to take off some of those facial bandages. You okay with that?" "Yeah, sure," I replied. "I go by Dr. A. It's easier," she said with a warm smile, pulling up a stool beside my bed. "Dr. A, huh?" I echoed. "That works." She watched me closely for a moment, then asked, "Would you like some tea? I got my own blend. It might help you relax a bit." "That actually sounds really nice," I said, thankful for a bit of normalcy. She poured the hot water into a cup, dropped in a tea bag she pulled from her coat pocket, then added a little honey. "Careful," she said, handing it to me. "It's hot." I blew gently on the surface and took a cautious sip. It was smooth, calming, with just a touch of sweetness. I glanced back at her, still holding the cup between my hands. "Dr. A," I said quietly, "do you think she's been cheating on me?" "I'd say there's a pretty good chance," Dr. A replied softly, her expression shifting slightly, just enough to tell me she already knew more than she was letting on. "Would you tell me the truth if you knew it?" I asked her, my voice a little shaky but firm. Her smile stretched just a little wider. "Without question," she said. "And not just that, I can find out for certain." "You really think you can?" I asked, not sure if I was more hopeful or terrified. "Oh, I don't think, Max. I know I can," she said, her voice steady and calm. "The real question is, can you handle what the truth might be?" I didn't hesitate. "I have to know." She studied my face for a moment and gave a slow nod. "All right," she said. "But give me a little time, okay? I'll get you the answers you're looking for. In the meantime, I need you to focus on healing. Rest, get stronger. Can you do that for me?" "Yeah," I said, sighing. "Yeah, I can do that. Could you maybe leave me some of that tea before you go? Later that morning the detective came in, same guy from the other day. He pulled up a chair and looked at me with cautious interest. You seemed more alert today, he said. I was wondering, do you remember anything about what happened to you? The attack. I shook my head slowly. No, not really. I remember pulling into my driveway that night and then, nothing. Just waking up here. That's the weird part, I've always had a sharp memory. The detective leaned forward. Well, that might have something to do with the drugs they used. I blinked. Drugs? What drugs? He looked surprised. Wait, no one told you? I shook my head again, confused. No. I didn't know anything about that. They found traces of a powerful sedative in your blood. You were definitely drugged before the beating started. Might explain why you don't remember much. A little later the doctor returned. He was holding a folder and some x-rays. Morning, Max. How are you feeling today? Much better than yesterday, I replied honestly. He nodded and pulled up the light board, placing the x-rays where I could see them. Well, I've got to say you're recovering impressively fast, he said, flipping through my chart. Your ribs are nearly healed, the fractures on your skull are closing nicely, and... He glanced at me briefly. Even the damage to your groin area looks like full functionality will return. I winced just hearing that but nodded. Good to hear. Oh, and the swelling in your face has gone down a lot. You're looking more like yourself. Just then the door opened and Dr. A stepped in. She was pushing a small cart with a pot of steaming water, 2 teacups, and her briefcase sitting neatly on top. The scent of honey and herbs floated in behind her as she quietly shut the door. Good morning, Dr. Ramja, I said with a small smile. She gave me a nod, then poured us each a fresh cup of tea, adding a touch of honey before handing mine over. Thank you, I said, cupping the warm mug in both hands. I really like this blend. Her eyes softened. I'm glad to hear that. She settled into the chair beside my bed. So, how's the memory coming along? I heard you may have started to recall some things. Yeah, I said slowly. It's coming back in pieces. I remember more now. Bits of that night. Faces, voices. Her posture straightened slightly as if bracing herself for what came next. I saw them. I remember who they were. And I remember what they did to me. On the other side of town, a video was playing on a large flat screen in a sleek, modern apartment overlooking the city. Yep, that's Mario, said a man with a crisp voice, leaning back in his chair with a glass in hand. And this drink? It's perfect. Don't you think, darling? Shannon, seated beside him, smiled tightly. Yes, it is. Mario glanced over at her and nodded. Thank you, sweetheart. You're too kind. Then, turning his attention back to the man across from him, Jake, Mario's tone shifted. The charm slipped away. All right, he said flatly. Enough small talk. Let's get down to business. I need to know, Mario said firmly, his gaze fixed on Jake. Can your guy handle the job or not? Jake exchanged a quick look with Shannon, then leaned back a little. Thanks for the drink, Mario. Yeah, Mario replied, standing to his full height as a clear signal the meeting was over. You're welcome. He turned and walked out, and just like that, the video cut off. I sat there, stunned, staring at the blank screen. My thoughts were racing. How did you even get that? I asked, glancing over at Odessa. Are you some kind of private investigator or something? She just gave a little shrug, a sly grin playing at the corners of her mouth. Trade secret, she said. Let's just say, I have my ways. I should probably call Detective Hansen with this, I muttered, already reaching for my phone. But before I could do anything, she gently placed her hand on my arm. Not just yet, she said. Her voice was low, deliberate. I've got another idea. I looked at her, unsure. What kind of idea? Her eyes sparkled, but her voice was dead serious. How would you like real justice? Not just a report filed. I'm talking justice, for all of them. Of course I want that, I said. But, I'm still married. The words came out slowly. I wasn't sure why I said it. It felt like the right thing to say, even if it didn't feel like the whole truth anymore. She looked at me for a long second, studying my face. Your wife is cheating on you, she said quietly. That much we know. Surely you see you deserve something more than what she's given you. I know she is, I said, nodding. And as tempting as you are, Odessa, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Maybe if I wasn't still married. Her lips curved into a wide smile. She leaned in, her breath warm against my skin. Good answer, she whispered, brushing her lips against my cheek, her fingers tracing lightly along my jaw. Very good answer. And still she kissed me, softly but with intensity. I didn't stop her. As her touch lingered, a storm of images erupted in my mind. Faces frozen in fear, the betrayal, the beatings, the nights I lay alone in that hospital room wondering if I'd ever walk again. Wondering if I even wanted to. "We don't have much time to pull this together," she said suddenly, her voice slipping back into the sharp tone of someone on a mission. "I know," I said quietly. "I'll need to loop in my contacts," she continued. "Eli knows an attorney who'll help, and we both have a judge in this state who owes us a favor or two." "You really think this can work?" I asked. "I know it can," she replied. "You'll take care of all that? You just focus on getting better," she said. "Let us handle the rest. I'll make arrangements for the camp." "I should probably give notice at work," I said. She nodded. "I agree. Your boss is stopping by later today, you can tell him then." Just as she stood to leave, something shifted in the air between us. I looked at her, really looked at her, and it hit me, this wasn't just about justice anymore. She wasn't just some mysterious woman with connections. She was retribution incarnate. There was a fire inside her. And I'd seen how close she'd come, recently, to wiping out entire cities just to protect someone she loved. Her affection for those she'd helped over the years was real, but what she felt for me, it was different, deeper, more personal. She didn't just care. She chose me. Later that day, Jim, my boss, showed up. The man looked both relieved and overwhelmed when he saw me sitting up. "Max," he said, pulling a chair closer. "Glad to see you on your feet again." "Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that." "I mean it," he said. "And listen, I know this is a tough time. So here's what we're going to do. You've got plenty of sick time saved up and some unused vacation. I'm putting you on paid leave for 4 months. I blinked. 4? Yeah. We'll reevaluate things at the end of that. If you're ready to come back, great. If not, we'll talk then. In the meantime, I'll bring in another accountant or two to help carry the load. You just focus on getting right, okay? I nodded slowly, overwhelmed by the gesture. Thanks, Jim. That means a lot. He gave me a firm pat on the shoulder. Of course. We've got your back, Max. Always have. I don't want you worrying about a thing, Jim said as he stood to leave. Thanks, Jim, I said sincerely. You've always been a good friend and I appreciate everything. He smiled. It's my pleasure, Max. After he left, I reached for the phone. There was one more call I had to make. Hey Saul, it's Max. Max, he said, his voice warm. Good to hear from you, man. How are you holding up? I'm managing, I said, then lowered my voice. Listen, I need a big favor. Anything, you name it. Well, it's a bit complicated, I said. Not something I want to explain over the phone, but I need to move fast on some things. I've got someone headed your way, her name's Danny Jones. I need you to work with her to push some things through, no questions asked. There was a pause on the other end, then a low chuckle. Danny Jones? Oh yeah, I remember her. Isn't she the one who practically dismantled Acme's legal team last year? That's the one. If she's involved, Max, this is serious. More serious than I can say over a call, I said, glancing toward the window. I'm on it, Saul said. You just worry about getting better. Later that night, Odessa came back to check on me. There was something in the way she looked at me, something deeper than just concern. She sat down beside me, reached out, and gently took my hand. I need you to hear this, she said. I love you, Max. Not like anyone ever has. And I'll always be here for you. She leaned in and kissed me softly on the cheek, and something inside me shifted. The pain, the confusion, the lingering betrayal, it all faded just for a moment. I love you too, I said, meeting her eyes. More than I ever thought possible. She smiled, kissed me again, then stood. I've got a lot to get done tonight, so I should get moving, she said. By the way, your flight to Spokane is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. You should be cleared for discharge by then. Eli's staying here with you tonight and will fly out with you in the morning. I'll see you again before you leave. All right, I said, trying to hold on to that feeling of calm she always brought with her. Somewhere across town, a different conversation was happening, one that Odessa had been quietly watching from a distance. She was thinking back to the last exchange between Max and his wife. There was something odd in it. His last words to her, "You'll get what's coming to you," they'd caught her off guard. It sounded almost like a threat. And that was strange because Max was not a threatening man. He was one of the gentlest, most soft-spoken people she had ever known. Never raised his voice. Never lashed out. But that line carried weight. And then there was the kicker. He mentioned his assistant would meet her at the Four Seasons. How did he know she'd be there? Had he hired someone to follow her? Later that night, Max sat with Eli, the two of them going over everything in low voices as the night settled around the hospital room. I know it sounds crazy, Max said. But I love her, Eli. I can't really explain it. I'm a married man and yet, I love someone else. Does that make any sense? Eli chuckled, sipping from his cup. Actually, yeah, it does. You're a young, decent guy. And Odessa? She's stunning. She's also a few thousand years old, but let's be honest, she doesn't look a day over 25. Max gave a soft laugh. She's beautiful, yeah. But it's more than that. It's like she's part of me now. Eli's smile faded into something more thoughtful. She is, he said. But don't forget, she's not like anyone you've ever known. She might look like a young woman, but she's not. Not even close. I know, Max said quietly. But I feel like I'm supposed to be here, for her. Like I'm meant to stand beside her. You're not wrong, Eli said. She's been strong for so long, always bearing the weight alone. But even she needs someone she can rely on. Someone who gets it. Someone who loves her, not just for what she is but for who she is. Max hesitated. That sounds a lot like being a husband. I'd say that's about right, Eli said with a slow nod. So, think you can handle that? Because this isn't a halfway kind of love, Max. It's all or nothing. And she's not like any creature you've ever met before. Max didn't answer right away. He just sat there thinking. But deep down he already knew the answer. I know, I said quietly, eyes still fixed on the floor. I've been thinking about this nonstop. Eli gave a slow nod. Well, you better keep thinking. Because if you choose to be the one standing beside her, you need to understand what that really means. Somewhere across the city, inside a sleek glass office building, the conversation was much colder. The drive is encrypted, the man said, tapping the flash drive against his palm. Passwords scribbled on the underside. Don't lose it. We expect regular updates on his progress, another man added. You'll hear from him when it's time, the woman replied. Her voice was clipped, almost bored. Speaking of your husband, one of them said, you don't seem too worried about him. He's in pretty rough shape, last we heard. Shannon leaned back in her seat, unfazed. No, I'm not worried. He has a job to do and if he's smart, he'll just do it. No questions, no whining. She paused, then added casually, and just so you know, if he tries to email that data to anyone, especially the authorities, the drive will wipe itself. Tracker included. Out in the city, in a dim alley behind a warehouse, two large men in dark suits were scoping out the area. The bulges under their jackets made it obvious they were carrying heat. They were so focused they didn't notice the tall, lanky man strolling up behind them until he was right there. Can I help you fellas with something? He asked with a friendly smile. Startled, both men reached instinctively toward their weapons. But they froze when another voice cut in sharply from behind. I wouldn't even think about it. They spun around to see a younger man, lean and composed, wearing a cowboy hat and holding a long rifle. His hand, gloved, rested calmly on the trigger. How the heck did you sneak up like that? One of them grumbled. Eli chuckled as he approached, brushing some dust off his jacket. Picked it up from one of those TV shows of yours. Saw a guy with pointy ears do it, looked easy enough. You do know that was just a show, right? Amos said dryly. Actors. Scripted scenes. None of that's real. Eli grinned. Well, now you tell me. Sure looked convincing. The two thugs were out cold a minute later, hit with just enough force to keep them down. How long you figure they'll be out? Amos asked, checking their pulses. No idea, Eli said, giving a shrug. Day maybe. I squeezed extra hard just in case. Back at the hospital, Odessa sat beside Max one last time. You're strong, Max, she said gently. But you need to understand. Shannon's not the woman you once knew. They've twisted her. Manipulated her. She's deep in this now and she's not coming back. Max stared out the window. I'm not second-guessing myself if that's what you're asking. She waited. Even if I could get past the cheating, which I can't, how could I ever trust her again? That part of us, it's gone. There's more, she said, her voice heavy now. They're planning to kill you. That's been part of the plan for a while. Shannon knows she won't get a dime in a divorce. But if you're dead. Max took a slow breath. Then she cashes out. Odessa nodded. Exactly. Later that afternoon, a nurse popped her head into the room. I hear you're getting discharged, she said with a polite smile. I am, Max replied. No offense, but I'm ready to get out of here and back on my feet. No offense taken, she chuckled. Believe me, I'd be climbing the walls if I were in your shoes. As she left, Odessa turned to Eli, who had just stepped back into the room. I heard you ran into some of Mario's goons last night, she said casually. Yeah, Eli replied, smirking. Amos and I handled it. She's not happy with them right now, Odessa said as she slipped an envelope from her briefcase and handed it to me. Well, Eli chimed in, that's their tough luck. I opened the envelope slowly, my fingers brushing over the contents. 2 plane tickets. One way. They're for you and Eli, she said. You leave this afternoon. I stared at the tickets, then back at her. The gravity of it all was finally catching up. You really think I'm ready for this? She gave a small nod, but her eyes searched mine carefully. Max, you've never had to do anything like this before. That's not your fault, it's just the life you had. But this next part? You'll have to do it on your own. She took my hand gently. That doesn't mean you'll be alone. I'll be with you every step of the way, in spirit and heart. And when it starts to feel too heavy, think of me. Okay. Can you do that for me? I looked at her and nodded. I will. Good, she said with a soft smile. They're getting ready to bring your discharge papers, so I need to get moving. I'll remember everything you told me, I said. She turned to leave, but I called after her. Wait, what about my stuff? Don't I need to bring anything? She gave me that sideways smile again. Nope. We've already taken care of it. Everything you'll need will be waiting at Camp Rollins. Later, as Eli and I sat outside the terminal, killing time with a couple of cold beers, the conversation turned more personal. I think I've gone soft, I muttered. Eli raised an eyebrow. I've been meaning to get back in shape. Hit the gym. Just haven't found the time. You think that's part of why Shannon did what she did? Eli looked off toward the horizon for a second, then said, could be. Maybe she started seeing you as someone she could push around. Some folks take kindness for weakness. But truthfully, I think it's simpler than that. Shannon's greedy. And she let some jerk fill her head with lies. No argument here, I said, shaking my head. We know she's after your money, Eli added. Question is, how much we talkin'? I hesitated. Couple million, give or take. Investments, savings, some trust funds I inherited. It's a lot. Eli whistled low. Well, no wonder she's got stars in her eyes. But you listen to me, Max. There's one very important thing you need to remember. What's that? No matter how big and tough you think you are, there's always someone out there who's bigger and badder. You're not bulletproof, son. He gave a half grin. Not like me anyway. I've already died once, I can't exactly be killed again. I gave a soft chuckle. Good point. Eli clapped a hand on my shoulder and gave it a firm shake. Don't worry. You're gonna do just fine. We finished our beers and headed toward the gate. No luggage. That part still felt strange to me, like walking into the unknown without any tether to the past. But maybe that's what I needed. A man standing near the gate caught my eye. Security. He looked me over, then nodded politely. You heading to Camp Rollins? He asked. Yes, sir, I said. He looked satisfied. All right. Finish your smoke, then head on in. Will do, I replied. Eli and I finished our cigarettes in silence. We didn't need to say much. Everything that needed saying had already been said. We shook hands just before I stepped onto the plane. You take care now, Max, Eli said firmly. Remember what we told you. Stick to it and you'll do just fine. I nodded and stepped forward. The next part of the journey had begun. I'll be back to get you when you're finished, Eli said, giving me a firm nod. Thanks for everything, Eli, I said. He gave me a smile, tipped his hat in that signature cowboy way of his, then turned and walked back toward the terminal. Just like that, he was gone. Camp Rollins wasn't what I expected. The moment I arrived, they stripped us of everything: clothes, wallets, phones, even jewelry. All our personal belongings were tagged, inventoried, and locked away in secure containers. They even made us remove the batteries from our phones. It felt less like joining a program and more like getting booked into a different kind of prison. One built for breaking you down and rebuilding you from the ground up. They handed out uniforms. 2 sets of olive green overalls, white t-shirts, plain boxer shorts, socks, tennis shoes, work boots, and caps. Along with that, a basic toiletry kit, tossed into a standard issue bag. No frills. No comforts. Just what we needed. Barely. The sergeant in charge had a face like sandpaper and a voice to match. He didn't smile. Ever. Not that anything surprised me anymore. After what I'd been through, this place actually felt grounding. The only real break came on Sundays. Some of the guys went to church. The rest of us got assigned chores. mowing grass, hauling laundry, washing floors. But Sunday was also letter-writing day. I started writing to Odessa. Each week, I'd tell her how much I missed her, how the training was pushing me, and how I felt more like myself again. Actually, maybe like a new version of myself. Stronger. Focused. It felt kind of silly sometimes. I was sure she already knew exactly how I was doing. Somehow, I didn't doubt for a second she had eyes on me. But still, I wrote. It helped to put the feelings into words. One afternoon, I sat down with one of the counselors. A younger woman, sharp-eyed but kind in a quiet way. She had a notepad in her lap, scribbling notes as I finished my fitness report. "You know," she said, looking up, "your case doesn't seem nearly as intense as some of the others here. I'm curious, why are you here?" I smiled a little. "A friend said it would be good for me." "Is it?" she asked. "Honestly? Yeah. I think it is," I replied. "For starters, that spare tire I had around my waist is gone." I gave my stomach a playful pat, which made her laugh. "But more than that, I feel like I'm standing up straighter. I'm not hiding from anything anymore." She nodded thoughtfully. "All right, Max. We'll talk more one-on-one later." Physical training was next. And this part? This was different. The drill instructor barked orders as we gathered around a straw effigy tied to a pole. It looked like something out of the Dark Ages. Bennett, front and center. I stepped forward. The sergeant handed me a burning torch. It was hot, heavier than I expected. I gripped it tight. "Burn the witch," the sergeant shouted. "Sir." "Burn the witch, sir." I called back, my voice loud and sharp. I walked to the base of the effigy, lowered the torch, and set the wood on fire. The flames licked up the dry straw, crackling as they rose. It was strange, almost ritualistic. But I understood the point. It was symbolic, letting go of what haunted you, of what had betrayed you, of what no longer had power over you. Shannon. The lies. The pain. Burn it all down. Later that night, Odessa appeared. She always had a way of entering a space without making a sound. I sat up on the edge of the bed in the modest dorm they assigned us. "Mario's done," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. "The evidence came through. You convinced them. There are going to be arrests, lots of them." I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "So what now? What do you suggest we do?" She looked at me with that same calm intensity she always carried. "This is your show now, Max. You're the one that has to carry it through. We're behind you, we'll support you. But you've got to do the heavy lifting." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small object wrapped in black silk. "I'm going to give you something," she said gently. "Something that might help you with the weight of this." "Close your eyes," she said. I did as she asked. She leaned in and placed her hands on either side of my head. The warmth from her palms radiated through me like sunlight on a cold day. For a moment all the chaos faded. All the fear. All the doubt. Just stillness. And her. A strange warmth surged through Max's body, almost electric, like his nerves were coming back online after being asleep for too long. It wasn't unpleasant. In fact, it felt like something inside him was finally waking up. "It's good to finally be going home," Max said, glancing over at Eli as they boarded the plane. Eli gave a half-smile. "Yeah, it is." They found their seats and buckled in. The cabin buzzed with quiet conversation and the occasional chime of the overhead speakers. Once they were airborne, Eli turned slightly in his seat, voice low but firm. "You should know, Shannon, Jake, and some of Mario's boys, they're at your house right now." Max's eyes narrowed. "They're what?" "Don't worry," Eli said calmly. "Amos is with the private investigator. They're keeping a close eye. And there's a couple of sheriff's deputies on site too." "Odessa told me they'd be there," Max said. Eli nodded. "You gonna be able to handle this?" Max stared out the window for a second, then took a slow, steady breath. "Yeah, I think I can." When they landed, Max gave the driver a quiet instruction and leaned over to Eli. "Did you see that?" "I did," Eli said, smiling just a bit. "Good job. Just don't let it go to your head." Max chuckled, the sound dry but genuine. Eventually, they pulled up to Max's home, a secluded house sitting on 5 acres of woods just on the edge of town. Peaceful. Private. Or at least it had been. As they approached, they noticed a pickup parked nearby. Eli recognized it right away and had the driver pull over. Amos walked up to the window. 4 guys inside. Shannon's with them. And her lawyer friend. "Showtime," Eli muttered. They approached calmly, and within minutes, the sheriff's deputies moved in. "You understand this is a federal process," the lead officer said as he cuffed Jake. "You're under arrest. And if Mario decides to retaliate," one of the men snarled. The deputy didn't flinch. Then that's your problem, not mine? Max, Eli, and Amos watched silently as the group was taken into custody. No dramatic resistance. Just cold reality setting in. Shannon's eyes locked on Max as they cuffed her. There was something almost human in her voice, confused, like she couldn't quite recognize the man standing in front of her. What happened to you? Max stepped forward slightly, his expression calm. You happened to me, he said. And for the record, Maxwell Burns doesn't exist anymore. She blinked. What? I said, he repeated, Maxwell Burns is gone. Then who are you? He straightened up, his voice low but thunderous. I'm Max Barat. The name alone sent a chill down her spine. The lawyer, flustered, stepped forward. Speak up, man. Who are you? And how did you get here? Max tilted his head just slightly. Don't you recognize the accountant you wanted to do your books? He asked, eyes locking with Mario. You really should know who you're doing business with. Mario squinted at him. Wait, what? I'm the guy Jake and Shannon told you about, Max said. Oh, Mario's face paled. So you're the accountant who double-crossed me. He sneered. Do you have any idea who I am? I could have you taken out with a single phone call. Max laughed. Not loud, but it cut like a blade. The real question is, he said, do you even have a phone anymore? 2 more agents stepped in to collect Mario, snapping his hands into cuffs. Later, as the dust began to settle, Eli looked over at Odessa, who had just arrived. So, I take it our services aren't needed anymore tonight? He asked with a grin. She nodded. No, Eli. I've got it from here. He tipped his hat, but she caught his arm gently before he turned away. Remember your promise, she said, her voice softer now. You're a moral man. You've still got all the desires of one, and there'll be temptations down the line. I know, Max said quietly. But you'll be with me. I'll always be in your heart, she whispered. And I'll help you through those moments. He looked around at the flashing lights, the police vehicles, the house that used to be his sanctuary, and finally whispered, I can't believe all this is happening. Odessa reached out and placed a hand over his. Your life will never be the same again, she said. But that's not a bad thing.